foundation for your recording studio, but you should not stop there. You'll want to ensure that pesky sounds and background noises are not a problem for you. The easiest way for you to do that is by using a pop filter. A lot of mic kits come with that, but if you have to order them separately, they're relatively inexpensive and should not be a hiccup. I use a Wintec PopGuard 2000. I tried freestanding filters and they were great, but because I don't have a freestanding standalone studio and I typically move from room to room or location to location, I needed something that was easy to travel with. So here's what I use. I want to show it to you so that you are not overwhelmed. This is the foam that I use for my mic. I simply cover my mic and then I put my windscreen on. It pops right on and I speak into it, and that keeps me from hearing those pesky snaps or pops when I say my P's or my S's. And like I said, I probably paid maybe $7 for both of those, if that. It's a small investment, but the sound quality will be superb and you will be able to tell the difference. If you have a permanent studio, you might want to have a snap screen that is mounted. So I've included some options in your resources in this module, so be sure to look at them and weigh your options and do your homework. Now, when it comes to recording, on what type of equipment you're going to use to recording, it's a tough decision. As I said previously, I'm a Mac user. It was a no-brainer for me to record on my computer. It was not an investment that I had to make because I already owned it. If you already have a CPU or a Mac, then I would say start there. But of course, there are receivers and there are Zooms and different equipment that you can order if you already surpassed this level of podcasting or if you want to go guns blazing all in. So once you decide the microphone you want, what type of filters, and what device you're going to use to record, we're going to have to talk about recording platforms. So there are so many options when it comes to what platform to use. When I first started out, I used a program called Cast, trycast.com. I purchased a certain amount of hours each month, and I was able to send a link to guests, and they were able to record, and Cast would record 2 separate streams, and we would merge them, which made it extremely easy for editing. The reason I stopped using Cast, at the time it was a very new platform and there were still some technical glitches that hadn't been worked out. I hear it is much more improved now, so you look into that if that's something you're interested in. From Cast, I went on to using Zoom. Zoom is free, so it is excellent for a new podcaster. Now, a ton of folks use Skype because it's free as well. I prefer Zoom because I can hear the difference in the sound quality. Zoom has exploded since COVID-19, so they have made some more security factors and made sure that people are safe when logging in, which is really important. Zoom also allows you to record video. If you're wanting to do video or voice or both, it's a free platform that you can use. All downloads are in MP4 format, which in some cases you might have to make them MP3 in order for them to go on your platform, but that's something that you can definitely learn to do and should not intimidate you. Zoom, I used it for years. It was great. It was easy to record. People know how to use Zoom. That was another thing that really attracted me to it. It was plug and play. You send the link. You can add it to different platforms that you use for scheduling. And it's great with integrating and easy for listeners and guests alike. One thing I will recommend when using Zoom is that you always use a freestanding mic and you always wear headphones. And you recommend that your guests wear headphones because the sound is night and day. I would also ask that you have your guests actually dial in from a computer rather than their phone. It's a great convenience to be able to record people wherever they are, but there is a distinct sound difference using the Zoom platform when you record from an actual computer or Mac or whatever the case may be, or your cell phone. Either way, you definitely get the sound and you capture their interview. It's a preference on how you like podcasts to sound. Since using Zoom, I've actually began using Squadcast, which I must say is my fave. I love Squadcast. It is a newer platform, but it's so user-friendly. It's a lot like Cast in that it records separate audio tracks for the guest and the host. So you're able to merge those tracks and edit any background noise that may come from your guest separately and merge those tracks once you have them both together, and it just works great. I can't say enough about it. It is a paid platform. You buy a certain amount of hours each month. And depending on where you're starting, the packages range and they can go on, but it's relatively inexpensive and super user friendly. I don't edit my shows myself, so I'm able to actually share a link without having to do any downloading of the episode and send it to my editor, where he can then merge and do everything he needs from the platform without me having to take up space on my computer. It's a lot more user friendly and it's just for the person on the go. I'm all about systems and incorporating things that make podcasting easier for all of us. A ton of my podcasting friends who are Mac users use GarageBand. It too has separate tracks that you can actually use for editing. I'm not a master at GarageBand, but I know a lot of folks love it. And if you're already familiar with it, I say go for it. It's really a preference. And of course you have Audacity, which is another platform, which is one who has actually been around since the beginning of podcasting. A ton of podcasters and editors and producers use Audacity. It too can handle multiple tracks. I'm talking about tons of folks. So if you have 4 or 5 folks on your recording for your podcast, Audacity might be the more user-friendly. Squadcast, you can have up to 4 guests at this time. Zoom, the sky's pretty much the limit at this point. And Audacity gives you a ton. And if you have a network or multiple podcasts, that might be a great platform for you. Now, for you Adobe users and those advanced podcast editors, you might want to use Adobe Production. It has a ton of advanced editing options that you won't see on the other podcast recording platforms that I mentioned before. The next piece of equipment I want you to concentrate on are your headphones. Yes, they are necessary. I don't suggest you go out and buy an expensive pair of headphones. For the first probably 6 months of me recording, I used my simple Apple Buds that came with my old school Apple cell phone, and it worked just fine with my Yeti. Since then, I've actually invested in a better set of headphones, but it's just for my listening pleasure. I don't believe it affects anything as far as the recording. So it's truly a preference. But I definitely recommend that you make an investment and you do have headphones, and always request that your guests wear them too. The reason I say that you're totally okay with using the old school Apple headphones is because wireless can sometimes be an issue. I've had tons of guests with wireless headphones meltdown or not charged in the middle of an episode, which can be an issue. So I would recommend that you always use something that you can plug into your device or plug into your microphone. I know it's not as attractive, but it is something that's dependable. And when it comes to people's time, I always want to make sure that we avoid ever having to reschedule if we don't have to. I always say it's better safe than sorry. So make sure you do your homework and you recommend what's best for you to your guests. Now take a moment to look at the resources I've provided here to see what microphones, what headphones, and what platforms work best for you, and I'll see you in the next module.